You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 374, our Bad Batch discussion of the episode Battle Scars, episode 7 of the first season, maybe more seasons. We'll find out sometime later this year, maybe next year. But we've got a lot to talk about because it is the Return of the King, Rex himself, and I'll kind of explain what that is a little bit later. So to help me break the episode down is none other than Mr. Jonesy. Jonesy, welcome to this fine Saturday evening. We're really mixing it up here lately, but
tell you what, man, Saturday evening edition.
Yeah.
Feels like we're the old newspapers here. Can you believe we're almost halfway through the season? We're almost to the midway point, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yep.
I mean, and we kind of talked about Rex. I mean, this is kind of right on schedule, right? We thought maybe around middle of the season, and
Yeah.
a lot of things we predicted kind of came true-ish. So,
True-ish. But hey,
True-ish.
like we say, you know what? We throw out 8 million things.
Something's got to work.
Yeah, it's a numbers game, right? It's
Right.
gonna, the odds are in our favor. Well, let's get to the episode here in just a second. Couple things, or actually one thing for news. We mentioned this last week. There's been a lot of progress made on this week, and I'm pretty excited. Let me share my screen real quick for anybody that's kind of watching on the live stream. But we've got a new show coming on we actually got 2 shows, but I won't talk about the other one just yet because it's not really
Intrigue.
Yeah, we've actually got 2 shows coming, but the one that's coming up right away here is Scream with Ryan C. Showers. And so this is a podcast for anybody that's a Scream lover of any of the movies, the TV series. This dude knows his stuff, and he's got so many of these episodes already laid out. And we've got the logo done. We've got we're going to try to get his first episode recorded this week. We'll get that submitted in iTunes. So hopefully that'll pop up on the podcatchers either late this week or sometime next week. So please give him a listen and support him because he is part of the Earglue Media Network. And we're excited to do this. It's going to be a lot of fun. I just did the intro too, and it's kind of scary. So
It's pretty creepy, folks. It sounded good though. And hey, it's going to be good stuff if someone uses their middle initial. You just know
Right,
it.
yeah.
You know, they're serious business. But
Yep.
no, yeah. If we heard Ryan on the Petticoats and Poppies, which is also on the network, and he's on a bunch of other shows, and he's a great guy to listen to. So this is going to be an exciting one, especially if you're a fan of the Scream franchise.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, check that out. We've got I'm showing the website up right now, eargluemedia.com, and we've got all the shows there. This one's up, but look for a lot more, like Jonesy said here, very, very shortly. And then, Jonesy, we got a new Patreon member we want to call out.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, Brendan Warren.
Yep.
Went ahead and joined our After Dark tier, so we appreciate the support, Brendan. And of course, that gets him access to our after show that we talk about with our Patreon after show of when we record the regular show. And then we pick another topic that we dig in a little bit deeper into. And Albert kind of already teased it out there. The name of our Patreon only episode is going to be called Return of the King.
There's a reason.
If you're on social media today, you already know the answer to this, but
go check my Twitter feed and you'll see what I'm talking about. I even spoiled it on there, but yeah, that'll be we'll record that. Again, we're still trying to figure out a way to record that and have Patreon folks join live. And but until then, we will kind of go off air, record that, and then release the audio for you. So Patreon members will have this episode tonight, and as well as the Patreon episode tomorrow morning, and then we'll release the other episode on Monday morning. So
yeah, shout out to the folks checking in on the live stream as well, Dante, Daniel, and all the other folks. So appreciate y'all joining us on short notice on a Saturday.
Yeah, we were originally going to do this tomorrow, but had something come up. So we're here tonight, and I want to talk about it. Let's talk about your first impressions on this episode, because we've been talking about this episode. We knew this was coming. We knew Rex was coming. Right. And we got I think a pretty solid confirmation that was indeed his shoulder that we saw in the last episode. So no reason to speculate at that point. But what did you think about this episode? Did it live up to your expectations?
I think it did. I mean, I think it checked the boxes we were looking to check. And I think what was even better about it is we got some extra moments in this episode we really wasn't expecting. Especially the Wrecker and Omega moments. Mm-hmm. Man, there were several of them. and they were really, really good. And it just shows you there's a completely different aspect of the show. We focus so much on Omega and Hunter, and now we've got this completely different relationship that we can dig into and understand, and it kind of brings the team further together. But this was an episode I think they had to get right. And there was no surprises in this episode at all, right? We kind of knew how this was going to play out. We knew Rex would show up when it came time to do the chips, all the things. I mean, how else would they know about it? There had to be a turning point.
Yep.
So not a surprise, but again, you've still got to do it right. You still got to do it well. And we got a few little extra moments in there, I think, that really, really made it worth it and brought the whole episode together. What about you?
I thought it was pretty good. There was, we'll talk a little bit here. There were some things that I was expecting to happen that didn't happen, and they're not really imperative for the story they were trying to tell by any means, but
right.
Just some character things that I thought were interesting choices that were made, especially between Rex and Echo and that. We'll come to that here in a little bit, but overall, I mean, any episode with Rex is a good episode, right? He is continuing to cement himself as a very, very high profile character, arguably more than some of even, the characters from the main movies at this point, like an Ahsoka, right? We've seen him in just about, we've seen him now in what, three series total. So,
well, I think when you think of if we just take the Clone Wars, if you think of the two probably most popular characters in that show, it's Rex and Ahsoka, right? I mean, two characters created for that show, and it just shows you how well they've been developed and how well they are. And you're right, man. What I really liked about Rex in this episode, though, is that he had a very different tone to his voice. Because I went back and watched the last couple of episodes of Clone Wars, season 7, just to refresh my memory about how things worked or how things kind of went down with Order 66. And the voice that D. Bradley Baker was using then was a bit more, I don't know, youthful almost. And we're really not that far beyond that point. Maybe a few months, if we kind of say in that ballpark. But in this episode, he was really
beaten,
a bit more weathered, beaten, and obviously I wouldn't say tired, but maybe fatigued and things like that. Which I really liked the difference in the voice and the tone. I'm granted it's probably been a year or more since he recorded these things, but we're Star Wars fans. We're going to make up what we want to make up here. But I really liked that there was a difference, and you could really tell, and it fit this context really, really well.
Yep. No, I agree. We'll talk more Rex here in just a little bit, especially when he comes on screen for the first time again. But another thing that stood out for me too was the music. The music's been pretty solid throughout the first 6 episodes, but in this one in particular, I think it was because so much of it was kind of a callback to season 7, and especially those last episodes with Rex, and that eerie kind of dooming presence sound. I forget. I don't know what Kleiner did for this. But it was certainly something that stood out in season 7. I think it continued here, but I thought it was amazing, especially at the very end when he and Hunter are kind of out there on Bracca, and it's nighttime, and that music in the background is pretty ominous, for lack of a better word there. But yeah, overall, I think it was a great episode. All those things considered, there were some great moments in here, like you said. Like, I love the fact that we have this continuing budding relationship between Omega and Wrecker, and at times it feels like brother and sister at the same age level, and then at the other times it feels like it's going to be one of these Beauty and the Beast kind of things, or I was going to Master Blaster, but that's not a really good reference unless you're like an 80s buff kind of fan. But so yeah, not a good choice. But nonetheless, it is a good relationship, and I love the fact that it started way back when first episode, and it's continuing to blossom, and kind of had a little rocky bump in it this episode for obvious reasons, but we'll talk about that and who was the bigger person there, right? The more mature person of all of that. So,
right.
Okay, well, let's get into, we'll walk through some of the highlights here. Jonathan says, I get Master Blaster. Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
There's always one.
Yeah, it's Johnny. If anybody's going to get it, it's going to be Johnny. Let's talk about, we open up on the Havoc Marauder. They're in some kind of shenanigans where they're being chased by, what they call them, Rokais?
Yeah, the Rokai.
Yeah, I don't know that, and I looked it up. I didn't see anything on them. I didn't sound familiar at first, but
I think this is the first reference we've ever had to the Rokai. Yeah.
So it's probably a throwaway class or race of aliens.
No, you know better than that.
Yeah, no, right. This will never come. You'll never hear the word Rokai in Star Wars ever again.
5 years from now,
right?
You'll see one, and Yeah, we'll see a character and we're like, what is that? And then somebody be like, it's Rokai.
That's the Rokai. Yeah.
You already knew about this. It was in Bad Batch 5 years ago.
Right. For all about 30 seconds.
Right.
We've got the relationship between Echo and Tech continuing to still be a little on the rocky side, right? I mean, they're not like, they're still jabbing at each other. It almost sounded like it was his fault that the hyperdrive wasn't working, or at least not back up and operational. But definitely some tension there. So I don't know if it's just, if it almost comes across as like Tech just really has it out for Regs. Like he's like the superior being, and, snubs his nose at them or whatever. I don't know where that's coming from, but do you think that's going to continue? I mean, it seems like it's every episode now, but I think these guys are going to go at each other here at some point. I
don't know. It never seems to get really serious. And Echo, I think in this episode, it was a little bit different than some of the other ones, if like the tone that it came across as.
Yeah.
Where it was very much like if Echo would ever get on it, he's like, I'm working on it, type of thing. And it was much like I wouldn't call them friends or buddies, but it was a little more towards that side of things than it wasn't some of the other ones where we're much more contentious. But I don't know. I mean, Echo has dialed back the really whatever the demeanor was he had early on in the show, like in the episodes, and that's softened a bit, and he's become a bit more of the team. He's been a little more prevalent. When we were joking before the show, he got to use his little screwdriver twice in this episode, so he's moving up there in importance.
Yeah. So Dante brings up a good point, because if you're in the IT industry, there's one thing that most people in IT don't like to do, and that's give up power in any way. Like trying to pry.
Don't take my admin password away from me.
Prying roles and responsibilities for people in the tech industry is absolutely futile. Like it's just crazy and it's silly. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe he doesn't like the fact that they've got another brain, or he's not really the brain. He's just a robot. Or not a robot. He's not a. That was a joke. He'd be a droid in Star Wars. But I just meant like he can do things that Tech can't, right? And maybe he does feel kind of threatened by him in some aspects of, hey, this guy's gonna take over my super admin password, and I don't think I'm cool with that.
Right.
We don't know. But all right, so you got Hunter. You had a good question here about whether or not he was in that.
Omega's room.
Yeah, Omega's room, where he was firing the turret from that or not. I'm trying to think of I was going to go look at the outside of the ship to see if there's more than multiple turrets. I know there's like at least one of them because we've seen it, but I don't know if it sits on the sides or it's underneath. It's not underneath.
Yeah, I can't really see it outside the ship. You're right. That's a good point. And I think there might be more than one, because I'm pretty sure we saw one where Wrecker tumbles into, I think, look like another one when they're chasing after the lizard when it gets loose, or whenever he's freaking out because the lizard's attacking him.
Yeah.
If you will. But I'm pretty sure he was in Omega's room, though, because it was straight back in the ship, I think. But if not, I didn't see curtains, though. So that's really upsetting. They took the curtains down.
Have you seen Raya?
No, I
The
haven't.
Last Dragon? There's a creature in there that rolls like when I saw it rolling, when I saw that lizard tumble and kind of go into the roll, I thought, oh, it's a nod to Raya, but it's probably not.
I thought it was a nod to Sonic the Hedgehog.
Maybe it could be any number of animals that get into a ball and roll.
Right.
We're gonna break down this in a lot more detail here in just a little bit, so stay with us. You're gonna really enjoy that
ball
one.
episode.
Yeah. We get back to Ord Mantell back at Sid's place, and this is where Hunter's asking Sid, like, "Hey, so what was the big deal with this lizard?" And she's like, "I don't know. I don't ask those kinds of questions." And she kind of she's pretty straightforward about it. Like, as long as you get paid, then what's it matter? It's kind of like we talked about a couple episodes ago when we mentioned that it was very similar to like a bounty, right? You don't really ask the questions. You just go, do the mission.
Do the job.
Yep. Come back.
Get paid. Yeah.
Yep. But we get some insight into how well or how awful these guys are doing with their finances, and they're starting to kind of feel like a liability to Sid because of the amount of attention they're gathering. They're running up the bill. They're buying Mantel mix in extreme volume right now, which is starting to really kind of hurt her. And then she's also still kind of bitter about the fact that they didn't even pull through on the Rancor mission like they were supposed to, right? So I don't know that she really feels like, hey, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Maybe this wasn't the best choice.
Droid. Yeah,
tactical droid. That's what it was. Yeah. No, not the Rancor.
She called it a bot's job there.
Yes.
Yeah, but you can see how uncomfortable Hunter is with the whole situation anyway. And then when she tells him that they have debt, he's like, talking. And even I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why would they have any debt? And she was like, you have docking fees and port charges and gear and fuel and rations. And then, the 20 cartons of the Mantel mix. I was like, what? And so, but, and Hunter was like, Mantel, 20 cartons. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because, and what prefaces that their cut was much smaller than what they expected. And, Hunter was like, you said it was 3 times the score. And she's like, yeah, mine is. And they're like, well, that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, well, I'm footing the bill for you guys. You guys have a safe haven. Basically, you're still breathing was her actual response.
Yeah.
So
she feels like I mean, I like her spunk and I like the fact that she's the way she is. And she feels like she feels like Maz Kanata should have been. Like it's like a more aggressive, better, like non-sexual predator character that Maz is not. Like that's how
man, you misunderstand Maz.
I do. I probably do.
She just loves her Wookiees, man. Don't hate.
It's funny too because when they cut over to that scene and they were like, "Oh, can we go? Can we go?" It was like 2 kids, going out and wanting to go buy something, like, and they go and they cut over to them eating that Mantel mix. But which I never, in my wildest dreams, never thought someone would name something called the Mantel mix after the reference from Empire Strikes Back about the bounty hunter we ran into on Ord Mantell, which I think is Fennec Shand now, by the way, but that's another discussion. But I never thought that we would actually have used the word Mantel to talk about a mix or a snack. But here we are, and when
look kind of like a caramel popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. It was like but with like the nuts and just like the right amount of salt, right? But when they were sitting there, they said it was a tradition. And the other thing that went into my mind is like, when you take your kids out and they go do a soccer game or a baseball game, and you go and take them out for a special treat, Dairy Queen
pizza or whatever.
Pizza, yeah, let's go celebrate. And I'm not talking about the orange slices. That's a weak. Don't give them that. It's weak. It's not. But yeah, if that's what it felt like. It's like they've got this tradition of like every time they have a mission, let's go get some pizza and popcorn, or let's go have some Mantel mix or whatever. Yeah. But it seems very relevant, I guess, and grounded in reality. So I thought that was neat.
I love the idea of an after mission tradition, and I love saying that after mission tradition. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I think I liked it though because Hunter even called Wrecker out because Wrecker's like, "Oh, can we go now? Y'all really need us?" And he's like, "Again? Well, the kid likes it." And he was, "Yeah, the kid, right,
right, yeah."
Because Wrecker's like a giant kid. But it was really sweet though that they have this thing that the two of them have, and this was one of the first moments I was like, oh, that's I thought it was cool that they were developing that relationship a little bit more. It was a little unexpected in that way. It makes a lot of sense because, like, I think you were the one that said it a few weeks ago. He's like that really cool uncle, that kind of crazy uncle that shows up and everybody loves. He's kind of crazy and wild, and then
plays
and then kind of goes and does his thing. But it's really like, and I think he said it this episode, he's really becoming more of this brotherly type of figure, and I really do like it. I think it's this big brother aspect, but he can really relate to her in some ways, and at least it helps lower some of her reservations and inhibitions with them, and be able to help communicate and put herself out there. I think it's a really cool thing that they're developing.
Yeah, sorry, this bothers me. Johnny's asking, it's candy corn. No,
candy. Candy corn.
There's one way to eat candy corn. That's just throw it in the trash. Pitch it in trash.
It's like pumpkin beer. Best way to drink pumpkin beer is pour down the
There's that line in there got me too when he's like, she goes, "You don't want to see my ugly side," and he's like, "That's not her ugly side."
Listen to your goggles.
Yeah, what was that, goggles? That whole exchange. I hope she stays around. Like, I'm worried now too because it feels like if they were pitching this as, oh, things really aren't going as planned, and we've been able to kind of squeeze 3-4 episodes out of this whole kind of relationship between the Sid. If you think about it, we've got 9 episodes left. There's still a lot of stuff that has not been resolved. And so either we're going to have to move over into the Empire and the Kaminoans and all that very soon, or they're going to have to table some of this stuff for the next season. My point is, or my question is, whether or not we're going to continue to see Sid around for a little bit more. Because this episode ends on this note, you kind of get the feeling that we're going to go back to the Empire, go back to Crosshair. But how much do you think she's going to still be involved? Or do you think they're going to pull her in some way? Like, we know she's pretty handy with the blaster. Does she get sucked into this and recruited into the rebellion in some way because the Empire comes knocking on her door and leaves her kind of in the, the same kind of a state that that creepy Maz Kanata was left in?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. At one point, I thought maybe that this would be kind of their home base. They'd be able to come back to this. And I don't know that we'd go back to it every episode, but maybe, so if we've got 9 left, maybe every third episode, maybe every other for a while, depending on what was going on with the story and where she would do that. But that's interesting. Now that we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but there's some things that happen in the episode that they could be starting to track that would get back to Sid. And she might get, busted and have to make a decision about what she's going to do. But will she get sucked into the rebellion? I think that's a hard no. Unless there's really something about her that we don't know that would cause that to happen. But again, we have no inkling of what that might be at this point because it seems like it's just Sid. That's all there is.
Yeah.
Now we don't know anything. So maybe there's more behind her. Maybe she has family or whatnot. But right now there doesn't seem to be any reason that she would join up with the rebellion. It seems like she would just move on, or she would do whatever's best for Sid. Whether that's selling out the Bad Batch or what, or just picking up shop and moving.
Yeah. Yeah. There was, I was thinking in my head, like maybe they come and destroy her business or whatever. And she's like, that's it. I'm joining Saw Gerrera and his folks.
Or again, she's conspiring with traitors, as we learn, right?
Yeah.
So
very true.
Crosshair would just put her down.
So there's, so while this is going on, all this kind of exchange going back and forth, this, shady looking character kind of is sitting there in the back of the bar. We don't see his head. He's got a cloak on, he's drinking. He's sitting in the Hammerhead, the Ithorian. I don't remember which one we gave him, if that was Norm or
Ithorian,
Cliff.
Yeah.
We'll just call him Norm. I think he's Norm.
Alfonso.
Alfonso, that's what it was. So Alfonso is all upset because his hooded robed figure is sitting in his chair or sitting in his seat. And then we get the blaster fire noise, which, by the way, it sounds like they lifted the one right out of the TK-421 scene in episode 4, if you listen to it, which is awesome because I always love the way that sound. But
right.
So they run out there, and that's when we realize that Rex is kind of standing there. He's been in the bar. He's been kind of sitting back, watching, listening, which I don't know why he did that other than for dramatic effect.
Right.
But hey, whatever. It's Rex. He can do whatever he wants. But yeah, so, and then you had it here. I had forgotten about this line because I thought it was I was like, what is he talking about? And I went back and listened to it. But this whole line of this ain't a clone clubhouse,
Right.
Yeah, that did get to me as well. That was pretty good. So kudos to Rhea Perlman for constantly doing that. But this is where you mentioned, this is where you get the sense, it's a very sobering kind of Rex compared to what we've had in the past, even as he starts kind of talking about it. And, it cuts away when, after they ask, what happened to you and all that. It cuts back and, he goes, well, that's a long story. But before we get into that, here's where I had, I guess, I'm going to say my only critique of the episode, the relationship between Rex and Echo. I thought there would be more of a, hey, it's Rex kind of thing. And it was just kind of it's Rex. And even Echo was just kind of where have you been? And Rex was like, oh, I've been laying low. And it just, I don't know. I was anticipating more of that, and I was hoping we'd get more background on what happened, getting caught up. And maybe it doesn't make for good television, but from the lore perspective, I would have really liked to have seen some of that background being shared. Maybe a montage if they wanted to really spice it up. That's a joke. Can't do a montage on that kind of thing. But I would like to have seen more emotion from all of them, really, because these are his brothers, and the fact that most of the other ones that he knows have all turned to the Galactic Empire, and yet here's the Bad Batch, and he knows what they're capable of doing. I don't know. It seemed out of character, I think, for everybody there, and it could have just been, hey, we don't have time for that. We've got 26 minutes to cram this episode in, and that would have taken another 2, and we can't really spare it. So, but what did you think about that relationship? I guess the reunion there.
Yeah, I think it was with the whole team too. I thought there would have been a little more excitement or emotion or something. It was very, very flat. And again, I get that the Bad Batch was taken aback by it. It was surprising. He was waiting for them. So Rex clearly, but he didn't have a smile on his face. He was very, very solemn and very serious. And Echo did do the talking, Rex, and where have you been? But again, I expect a little bit more too. I thought the whole reunion was a little bit flat compared to where I thought it might have been. But then we do get a bit of a, buds at the bar type of thing, and they're all talking and that type of deal. So I guess maybe that was what we got, but it wasn't the emotional reconnection that maybe we thought we were going to get, especially with Echo.
Yeah, exactly. That of all of the characters, I would have expected him to like, busted through, like bust past those guys and.
Well, like Wrecker did, right? Wrecker kind of saved the day.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but that's kind of his personality too.
Right.
He's the hugging uncle with the wandering hands. I'm kidding.
That's Maz.
That's Maz. Maz has wandering hands for sure. Okay, so yeah, they have drinks, and this is where you get the background about. He says that being dead in the Empire's eyes has its advantage. I got a question for you here on this one too, because when he said that line, and I just start seeing patterns with Dave Filoni where he drops little lines like that, and I started thinking, are we going to see, like, could we put it past Dave Filoni to end the series on some kind of oh my God, the Bad Batch just died, and then in the epilogue they're alive and they're with Rex, and Rex is talking to Hunter, and Hunter regurgitates the line of, hey, being dead in the Empire's eyes has its advantages, right? Because if you think about it, they're public enemy kind of number one, or at least they're being targeted right now with Crosshair and all of that. They're certainly on Grand Moff Tarkin's radar, but they're going to have to somehow shed that off. I mean, they can't be in constant battle with them, right? So if they take a page right out of Rex's book and fake their death, if you will, then that gets them off their back, and they can continue to kind of go and do their hiding kind of thing and change their freaking outfits, which would probably go a long way. But what do you think?
Well, I kind of asked the question, do we need to go back and watch Return of the Jedi now and see if there's a guy with a bandana and a skull tattooed on his face in the jungle of Endor?
Maybe.
See who's next to Rex.
Yeah.
I think there's ways they can get around this. If Crosshair, I guess maybe when Crosshair gets back in the team, presumably that'll happen. When Crosshair gets back in the team, they could probably lay a lot lower, and as long as they've still got Omega, and avoid the Empire. Now, how much they learn about Omega and where that goes, clearly that's a totally different angle that had to be compensated for. But I think they could probably do that because the Empire will lose interest in a group like this, I think, at some time, because you still got Jedi they're hunting, you still got everything still getting put into place. They're still worrying about money. So, I mean, there's just all these things that then they're transitioning all the clones and whatnot. So I think at some point they would just lose interest if you were able to low enough. But again, I think it's one of those points. You're absolutely right. I mean, we know Filoni likes to bring things back around, and then very circular and cyclical. And so I wouldn't put it past him to do something like that. And actually, I'm starting to kind of think that, is there a Rex type of show that's being floated around there as well? I mean, just keep going back to the well because the stuff is good.
Yeah. No, I was thinking the same thing as I was watching this episode. I thought there's a story here. And if they want to pick at it, I'm down.
I mean, think about it, right? Just like Bad Batch, you pick up right after the events when him and Ahsoka, bolt off of, I don't know what planet it was. I don't know if we ever got confirmation of that.
No, I don't think we got a name.
And basically, pick up right there, or right after maybe him and Ahsoka part ways. I mean, getting off topic, but I mean, there's definitely something there, and stuff has happened, and so I think there's definitely a story there. And even if we see Rex again, I don't think it would water anything down here.
Yeah, no, I'd be down for that. And we're going to talk. So we'll touch on the Rafa and Trace connection in the Patreon episode. It's going to be all about Rex. I think we've already said that, but there's a lot of other subtopics and sub discussions that we'll have kind of around him and where he's been and where he's going and relationships. All that stuff's going to be covered in there as well. But there was a moment there too when Rex looks very surprised when Hunter says that Omega is a clone like them. And I think, I mean, it's for obvious reasons. I mean, most people didn't know that, that she was there was a female clone first and foremost. But he was definitely surprised. And I like that we got a hard confirmation that she doesn't have the chip. And I couldn't remember if that had been already established. I think we assumed that it was, but I don't remember ever her saying, "Oh, I don't have a chip in my head," until this episode. Am I wrong there?
I thought we did too. I thought we got confirmation of that.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. That's fine. But yeah, no, it's interesting that he seems like, I'm not going to say he's what's the word I'm looking for? Resentful of Omega, but it feels like he's like challenging Hunter, like, hey, you guys are awesome, and what are you doing? Right? You've adopted this girl, and you're running around with her, trying to keep her protected, and that that's and that kind of plays in a little bit later because he says, hey, you guys would be a great asset, and Hunter's like, well, yeah, but I've got a squad, and she's part of it, and now we got to take care of her. And it feels like Hunter's like, I mean, Rex to me feels like, hey, you guys really need to get your crap together because there's a lot going on. The bigger picture right now is the galaxy, and you're trying to do this noble deed for this small child. But I don't know. I may be picking up again on something that's really not there, but it's just the look that he gives. He has this like really shocked look, like, are you kidding me? You've got a girl with you, and she was a clone, and all that. Well, they did have a good touching moment there. We'll skip over the Wrecker part because we already talked about it, but they did have a really kind of a touching moment when they were kind of looking in each other's eyes, and you had like, possibly the first generation with the arguably the most recent generation of clones staring into each other's eyes. And then she makes that comment about him being a first gen, which I saw a lot of people were speculating about. Oh, wonder how she knew that. I'm like, no, he has wrinkles. That's all she's saying is like, she's probably seen every generation of clones, however many they may be, which I want to get your opinion on that. But she's probably aware they probably age a certain way, because they're all the same or something. Who knows? But if anybody's seen a number of clones, it's going to be her because she's been living there her whole station. But going back to the generation thing, how many generations do you think there are? I never really thought about it in terms like that.
Yeah, I think the only real reference point we have had, we had a point. So if we look at like Attack of the Clones, they've already got them grown. And they make another mention, the Kaminoans make another mention that they have another, so many 100,000s on the, kind of on the way and being developed. But it's a question of what do they consider a generation? Is it because they tweak the code and that's a new gen or what?
It's the armor.
Right. Because usually, I mean, if we look at like the armor, well, that's only 3 phases.
Yeah,
right?
it's only 3 phases.
Right. So it's like, how do they classify generations? And I think, it goes back to what was Omega doing on Kamino exactly. And you figure that she's working on clones, with clones, something like that. So that she would be able to identify, rough or approximate an age doesn't seem really all that surprising to me. It seems actually like we would expect that from her. But I thought it was kind of an interesting moment though. You're unlike any clone I've ever seen from Rex. And, she just kind of looks at him curiously. She has this way of looking at people that's interesting. But again, I can see why people read more into that because the way that they express Omega in this show and in the last episode in this one in particular is really, really incredible. And the way the framing is done and the lighting and everything else is really giving her a lot of emotion when she's not really doing anything but looking at you, kind of thing. And so, but it's just a testament to the animation here. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing there's probably, how long did the Clone Wars go on for? 7 years, something like that.
Yeah. So maybe once a year. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really,
it wouldn't surprise me if we got anywhere between 3 and 10 generations, of clones, and who knows how many were in the works. But yeah, and if they were tweaking the code, I would imagine that would be a gen. But clearly, he's one of the first one off the lines, and Wrecker kind of jokes about that later on.
Yep.
You okay?
Oh, sorry. I have a little sunburn on my nose, and I just noticed it. I'm like, what's going on there?
What are you doing, man? Howard's like looking in the camera real close.
Yeah. They're all right. So at this point here, so you brought up Omega and what she was doing on Kamino. I think we are going to get a final answer on that at some point. But to your point, or my point, whatever, whosever point it was, it does feel like she, of all people, she is kind of like the subject matter expert, right? She knows so much about the clones inside and out. And that's why I think she's as forgiving as she is towards these clones, Wrecker
right.
and Crosshair. Yeah. Being able to kind of understand and empathize with what's going on there. So it just kind of, it makes sense. But of course we get, Wrecker starts mentioning that his head's hurting and all that, which I'm glad they got to that in this episode because I wasn't sure how long that was going to drag on. Same thing with Rex. And I was getting really concerned because we were approaching the halfway mark and we still hadn't gotten past that. And we know there's a lot of story still to tell.
Hey, if we can pause 1 second. So Johnny had a question in the chat just before we get too far away.
Oh.
He asked, why weren't they at least skeptical of each other? And I don't know that we saw that Omega was confused when Wrecker went up and gave Rex a giant bear hug. And she was really confused and was like, I thought you didn't like the Regs. So I mean, she had already developed this bias too, and then of course Wrecker's like, this is the one we like. But I think as far as skepticism, I think Rex probably has more reason to be skeptical of Omega than the other way around, because Omega is going to follow what the rest of the squad and who they trust and things like that. I believe, and so I think it was more about Rex, and I think we got a little flavor of that before, though, when Trace and Rafa told him that that the Bad Batch were traveling with a kid, and that's what he prompted Hunter for, like you were saying earlier. And I think they didn't get a chance to really answer it, but Rex is like, "What is that? Doesn't make sense. Like this, you guys with a kid, like what is special about this kid? Just because she's a clone."
Mm-hmm.
Now, when he sees that she's a girl, maybe that's what triggers it. But I imagine Rex is a little bit cautious about it. But I think he's also going to trust Hunter's, best judgment as well.
Yeah, the skepticism there. I was thinking too, like whether or not he would be. I think honestly, I
thought he would. I thought he'd be a lot more skeptical. I agree with you, Johnny. I thought Rex would have been a lot more skeptical up front, but he actually handled it pretty well.
Yeah. There's so getting back to, we get this pretty tense moment here where, once Wrecker's head starts hurting, and that question comes out of you haven't removed your chips, which I thought was interesting. Like, why would he ask that? Like, he didn't even know how to do it himself. How would he expect anyone else to have removed it? But I mean, that's probably, we'll get to that in the Rex dissection here a little bit later.
Well, he may have, and just at a real high level, he may have thought, since they were not with the Empire, that
they had already,
the only way they could have done it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. No, I can see that. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we'll scratch that off the notes.
Right. But of course, Tech had to chime in with his, I know everything and you guys don't.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Well, our deviations, make us immune to the effects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, except Crosshair.
Yeah, exactly. That's the stupidest theory.
That at the end.
Yeah. It's like, no, actually, no, it doesn't. And now you're a threat and a vulnerability. And that's how Rex took it too. Is like, wait a minute. If he'd not said that line, he probably would have been okay with it, at least for now. Like, I'll maybe prove that a little bit later. But he just nullified that whole argument by saying that Crosshair was impacted. He's like, well, if you got one of you impacted, then logically all of them are at risk for being impacted as well. And he immediately goes to his blaster. And we'll talk about what Rex has been doing, because I think that plays into why he was just so kind of, jump scared there and went to his blaster the way he did. I mean, there's obvious reasons, being that he went through it, and then he was on that spaceship with Ahsoka and was literally killing his own brothers that had turned on them. So I get all that, but there's probably some more into that as well. But I want to ask you one thing about this Order 66 thing, because we've brought it up already once, but now that some things have happened, I'm going to ask the question again. Did the order of execute, or the line execute Order 66 have to be uttered in order for them to convert or go to the Galactic Empire?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I always interpreted it, at least for a long time, was the Emperor had to give the order of 66. Now, whether it was exactly execute Order 66, one of those mental things where you kind of like the code words with Winter Soldier, right? You give the certain series. And so I think, yes, execute Order 66 was probably the exact thing, but I think they've started to blur those lines a little bit and be more of a, when you hear Order 66, it triggers it because you're just listening for the command, and that's effectively the command. And they already know the command's been given. So if the chip was going to activate, I imagine knowing that the order was given would be enough to activate the chip. Maybe. I mean, we're stretching things out, or really.
Yeah. Well, the way I rationalized it in my head was they're because Wrecker had never heard the word. He never heard the command.
I was thinking that too, but didn't they hear it with Crosshair in the first episode?
I don't think so, because they were running off. They were running off with Kanan, and and then conveniently the order was given to what's his face over there.
Crosshair. Okay.
No, not to Crosshair. Yeah, that's true, because Crosshair did churn. Yeah, I guess you don't have to have the command, and I don't think you do, because, well, I don't know. I was thinking now I'm second guessing myself, because actually we could argue that Wrecker is just malfunctioning. He didn't he never heard it, and he didn't have to hear it because his chip is just going bad. But the reason I brought it up was I'm starting to wonder, like, was Rex's theory did it have merit that at some point they would, or was Tech, in the right? And I guess he's still not, because Crosshair was impacted or changed by that. So
Right. Well, and I like you said, Rex, and while he wasn't killing his brothers on the ship, I think they were stunning as everybody, and Ahsoka didn't want to kill anybody either. That's why I went and rewatched this to make sure I understood kind of what that whole everything went down. But yeah, what has he been doing in between there? And it sure seems like he's run into a few conflicts, even those that maybe he trusted. And of course, Jesse, trusted, and Jesse was the main leader on the ship. But when he said Order 66, I'd had a moment, I think, just kind of like, sounds like what you did, of, whoa, have we heard them say this? And is this like, what? Okay, record, what's going on? Is record changing? But he's already been in process. So
yeah,
that's why I keep thinking it's just that they know the order was given. And I think that's enough for the chip to work. But to kind of go back to where we were, though, what I like about this is that Rex really only gets to Hunter when he says that they're a risk to Omega.
Yep.
Right. So not only is it a risk to everybody around them and each other, but really to Omega. And that's where Hunter's like, well, if Rex says this is a thing, we need to trust Rex. We will trust Rex.
Yeah.
He's never given us reason not to. And so that's where that relationship, like we got in the very first Bad Batch arc in the Clone Wars, is really important.
Yeah. No, I mean, he was like, it was immediate, like, oh, yep, you're right. Let's go trust him, because he can't, he's got to take care of her, and that puts her at risk. So, and then he says, I'm going to leave and I'll get back to you guys. And we don't know where he goes. We'll talk about that in the Patreon episode, but
yeah, he had to go find a place to do this too.
Maybe he just went off to go look for it or something. But we end up back on Bracca, which that was the place from the video game Fallen Order. Yep. Which I didn't finish. I know I don't talk about it enough, and some people you can lash me and at me, whatever you want to do. I got, it's just been a time thing. I actually really like the game, but I only played like maybe 4 or 5 hours into it. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Never went back.
What I always do and just watch the cutscenes.
No,
it's the best way to play.
I can't do that. I don't know. I can't.
100% free.
Yeah. Same thing with Squadrons. Like I bought that when it came out and thought it was awesome. And then I never played it. So what does that say about me? But that's not what this episode's about. Yeah. So Bracca is the Empire is kind of like, they're decommissioning all of these Republic ships and equipment and everything. And they're just basically, this is just the
Starship graveyard.
It's a Starship graveyard. It's like a junk planet, basically. I mean, they're just sending things there.
Did you have Dare to Be Stupid rolling around in the back?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Yep. The
Transformers, the movie.
Wreck-Gar, yeah, which is very similar to Wrecker now that you say that. But yeah, it was the Junkions or whatever they were called. Boy, we've had a lot of pop culture references in this episode. So, but yeah, that was that book. And then you mentioned it was referenced in that. I haven't bought that Star Wars book, that one that came out with Pablo Hidalgo and our buddy Dan Zare over there, Cole Hand Luke. But yeah,
Gosh,
did you pick that up, or did you just go look that up?
I just looked it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that was
I was
anticlimactic.
Right. I knew we had Bracca and Fallen Order. I just didn't know if we knew it from anywhere else, if it came in before any of that. And yeah, I was they call it the Star Wars book, but so that came out in 2020. If anybody wants to go check that out. So more or less a reference guide, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. I think the key takeaway here with Bracca is there's something called the Scrapper Guild. And we see them at the about the middle episode. They're kind of spying on them, and then we see at the very end, which they kind of look like the Pikes a little bit in terms of the mask.
They do.
But yeah, that Scrapper Guild, which I think we'll see them again. I'm assuming in the next episode at some point. But
right.
But yeah, so all of that was great. It did feel like it was, especially when they were coming over the horizon. It felt like the Rise of Skywalker. You know what I mean? Like they were coming over the horizon, just like Rey and everybody were coming over the horizon, looking out into the ocean, and then they cut over, and there's the fallen ruins of the Death Star, and then they cut over, and you see all the ruins of all the Venator class ships and stuff. Again, I don't know if that's what they were going for, but there was definitely parallels that were coming from me, or that I was seeing that.
And of course, recently we had the Mandalorian, where Mayfeld was working in basically a junkyard from the Imperial side. So 20 something years later, 30 years later, still working at it.
Yeah. There's their meet up with Rex and they go into I guess an abandoned medical facility on one of the Venator class ships.
Right.
But yeah, and then they start talking about like, oh, so what happened? And it was interesting too, because like I thought it was great that Breck was like, I don't know, I was on the other side of this. I have no idea, how it goes. And last time I was on one of these ships, it didn't go so well. I wonder if he told them that story about what had happened, because I mean that's worth a few drinks right there at the bar,
right.
And how they
Doesn't
got out of
like
that.
it doesn't sound like he got to that one yet.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that had everybody from droids and Darth Maul and
right. Yeah, because Echo had to ask him, well, how'd you get the chip out then? And Rex, again, not with any details, he had some help.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Ahsoka basically had to, with the droids, right? Had to basically lock him down and do it.
Yeah. On their way there, they've got to cross a trench. And this is where we get the, I get so caught up in the details, and I do apologize, but they had that cable, and the cable was on their side. How did they get the cable to secure to the other side and to hold their weight? Like, if you've ever gone and done like climbing and mountain climbing and stuff, that's kind of hard to do. But hey, you know what? It's Star Wars. I'm sure somebody had a grappling hook or something, right? I mean, it's Star Wars science. So
we know that Hunter did, because we saw that in a previous episode where he threw the line up.
That's right. It was in last week's episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. We've solved another Star Wars mystery.
Okay. So the way he would have had to do that then is,
oh my God,
he would have had to take his grappling hook line, tie it to the end of that, and then throw that on, pull it through, and secure it somehow. And you can actually do, no, I'm kidding. But
all right. So Albert, let's make another pop culture reference. Maybe one of these guys is MacGyver.
Maybe they all are. Maybe that's Mega's power. She's a MacGyver.
One of all of them.
One of all of them. Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, they start making their way across, and of course, Wrecker is scared of heights again. Doesn't really want to cross over. I love the fact that it was Omega that was kind of cheering him on and giving him the pep talk, and got him to get out on the line. Line snaps, and I didn't realize it until you put it in the show notes, but yeah, he's kind of hanging upside down there. It looks very similar to Luke as well. But that we got the monster of the week, and turns out the what was it, the Diagonara? What?
Dianoga, yeah.
Dianoga, yeah.
A huge one.
Yeah.
A huge one.
The maw on it was pretty huge.
Yeah, not the little baby one that we had in A New Hope.
Yep. But that was cool. I mean, wasn't expecting that. It's nice to know that those things exist in just trash. I don't understand how they get around. I'm sure there's some like reference book out there that's got it all. I've never really read anything about them, but still fun to see. Yeah. So they get him out. I don't know how. I kind of want to know what he did when he was down there underwater too.
Yeah, I don't know how he got loose. Maybe he just punched it really hard.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, this thing had big tentacles. The first time he got loose, he had his knife and cut a tentacle, and then they were trying to haul him up. Yeah. But when he got sucked back down, because the thing just like, okay, well, I'll just send more at you. And go, but yeah, the maw on this thing, man, it looked more like a Rathtar than a
Rathgar,
than a Dianoga. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is, now that we're talking about creatures, the one from the Mandalorian. What was that one? Remember the one that? Who was it? You know what I'm talking about, when they went out to
the very first episode?
No. This is in season 2 when they went to the Frog Lady's planet, and we find he meets Bo-Katan for the first time, and they're on that ship, and then what's her name jumps down in there to get something. What was it?
Yeah, we don't know what was down there. Oh, they threw. Yeah, I can't remember either. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
See, this is what I get for like trying to spring something on that's not in the show notes. I'll tell you right now, because I didn't plan for it. But
it's nice that you can do it to yourself, not just all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fantastic.
But you know what I'm talking about? Like, it looked kind of similar. It had the teeth and the tentacles and all that. All right.
Yeah, we didn't really get a great look at that one in Mandalorian, or maybe I'm just not remembering it.
Yeah, Dale says he punched it. That's probably the likely scenario. He probably just punched the heck out of it, and
that's all he could have done.
That's true too. It's not like he had a lot of choice, but okay, so they pull him out. We had some good lines in there also about, it smells awful, which was great. Let's see. There was a reference in there that Rex says about, and we've talked about this too, about battling clankers. Like, they just seem so out of their element. You know what I mean? because they're doing things that they don't normally do when they were fighting for the Republic, like fight sea creatures. I mean, this is stuff that they were never had. They were never trained. I mean, they're experts at fighting clankers and probably tactical things on a battle map of some sort. But raising kids and fighting creatures and all that stuff. I mean, it's just not part of who they are and what they do. So I think they're kind of learning and picking up new skills and gelling as a team in a lot of different ways than they have in the past. So,
right.
So eventually they get to the med bay. It looks disgusting. Tech's like, "Hey, this is great."
Well, he was.
Or
like,
who was the one said the
Tech? Yeah, so Tech comes in and there's rats in the walls and stuff, right? Was it Star Wars equivalent of a rat?
Womp rats.
Yeah, well, something. And Tech walks into the med bay. He's like, "This is not a sterile environment." And so Rex kicks it right back to him and says, "Would you rather go do this on Camino? This will do nicely."
Yeah.
It was just
That's
great
what it
Tech
was.
moment.
Yeah.
Tech, man, the way they wrote Tech is just awesome. I mean, this guy's delivery is perfect.
Yeah, he is. He seems like he's obsessive compulsive, like a germaphobe kind of guy. They like pushing him too.
I love this guy.
Yeah. So Echo gets on there, gets to use his little screwdriver again. Yeah, every week,
right.
Paying off. It was a good investment, however much money they spent on that thing.
Right.
And so they start scanning Wrecker at this point because he's getting a lot of problems. And this is where Omega really starts getting concerned because she's wondering, should they do this? And what happens if they don't? I mean, it's dangerous, right? And right. Rex is like, no, it's the greater danger is leaving that stupid chip in there. But her, as a child, her first instinct is, and rightfully so, is like, well, who's going to take care of me? I mean, These are her parents. They've taken her off planet. Protected her, they've armed her, they've been training her. This is her family now. Right. And I just wonder, like, she seems to be either she's very conscious of the risk that's involved, or she's manufacturing the risk because it's like a self-preservation, self-defense mechanism where she's trying to rationalize that, no, this isn't really the best thing to do because it's going to put me at risk and it's going to, make me scared about what's going to happen with me. But I was thinking, if anybody knows what would happen by removing those chips, it may be her. And I started thinking, well, I wonder if she saw this. She was in the medical bay, right? That's what she did on Camino. But do you think there was an opportunity there ever that she saw these chips being removed or being repaired or malfunctioning in some way and saw that some of them just didn't make it when the chip was removed?
Yeah, it's entirely possible. And I think some of it is when you're going to go operate on your brain, there's a lot of natural risk with that, right? So I think some of it, I think there was a little bit. I think so. I want to say she was manufacturing anything, but I think she was definitely, supporting that side of the argument that it would be like she is scared, and we want to do this because it's scary. It's really dangerous. I mean, clearly it's dangerous. They're digging into your head, right? Yep. And then whenever Wrecker comes out and won't wake up, it just exacerbates that fear of hers, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it, I think that she's probably seen some stuff in the med bay. She's probably seen. Maybe she's gotten some of the files from Fives and some of the things that they had seen with the locked files on Camino. Maybe she's aware of some of that. Doesn't seem likely at this point, but she's probably seen some stuff. And I think it's warranted. Anytime you're going to, laser drill in someone's head or whatever they do to actually kill this thing, I think there's a lot of inherent risk. And she's right. I mean, she's grown really close to these guys. Yeah. And Rex didn't exactly say, "Hey, I'll take care of your kid. It's all right. It's cool." But yeah, and they were able to, so the reason why they were able to do this, they got a baseline from Rex, right? So Rex doesn't have the chip. So they were able to go ahead and say, okay, this is what we should look like. And here's what we look like. So they knew what to look for.
Yeah.
Because remember back in Clone Wars, they had a really hard time finding it with Rex.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that's all makes sense. And I like the way he was kind of tying those two events together, kind of bridging those stories or seeing the continuation thereof of that story. There's, Rex is kind of starting to really, or not Rex, Wrecker is starting to kind of lose it, and they've got to get in there and start operating right away.
Hunter had a really nice moment here, though, where when Omega's freaking out, he lays a really gentle hand on her shoulder and tells him that it's worth the risk, or it's too dangerous to leave it inside of them, and they have to do it. And he says, don't worry, they aren't going anywhere. She's stuck with them, which puts her at ease. And of course, then we get a nice pan up to Rex, and Rex gives this really warm, kind of knowing smile then of course we start to remember back from, Cut, and then what Cut did with Hunter as well. And so
yeah, I didn't think
all
about
those
that.
things kind of come together, right? And so it was a really nice kind of tender moment in amidst a kind of a scary moment for Omega.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that there's a parallel there with him seeing yet another clone who is stepping up into this father figure role and kind of putting the kids first rather than the mission. So maybe that was enough for Rex to. I mean, he still kind of asked about it at the very end, but I think that really kind of took the edge off and helps him kind of understand. All right, I get it. You got to take care of the kid, and hey, call me later. We'll get the band back together.
Well, there's definitely, he recognizes the bond. I mean, and I think while he may not understand that or want that, he definitely has a new appreciation for it, which I think is something that we were looking for. How would Rex react to Omega and now Hunter as as kind of a unit there, as kind of a father-daughter thing. And I think that was, again, the end of the episode a little bit more different, but at this moment, I think that was they did really well done. They really played that up really nicely. And I like that Rex accepted it.
Yeah. Tech finds a chip at this point. You had a question there about whether it's similar to what they were doing with Crosshair and intensifying, fortifying the chip's effectiveness and all that. It does seem, I mean, it seems like the same kind of chamber, at least.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, in Wrecker, like you started to say it a minute ago, I apologize for interrupting. When they put the unit on him, Wrecker seems to really start struggling with this thing. I mean, it seems to be getting much worse. He's really having a hard time focusing, and starts to get more angry and, rips it off. But so it's a wonder when he does go in the tube, when they have this thing on him, whether or not it seems like it's intensifying. We get the sound starts blocking out as Tech starts rambling on about all the medical stuff. And it really just brought the question in my mind if this is what Crosshair was experiencing when he was in there, when they were, basically focusing radiation, if you want to think of it that kind of way. And this thing is poking and looking around in your head. And maybe it's a similar type of way of detecting it or isolating it that's creating this, I don't know. It's just intensifying it all.
Yeah. Yeah. There's we're talking about Wrecker. He's starting to lose it. They kind of trail off in this. They start and kind of trail off this whole conversation about Kaller and the Padawan, which I thought was really cool that they mentioned that. And I thought it would be really cool if if somebody said one day in the future you're going to meet this Padawan and he's not going to trust you, Rex. So get ready for that. But yeah, and this is kind of when he pops out, and Rex makes one comment that I want to carry on into the Patreon episode too about, he's seen other clones that were not affected as well. It could be Cut. It may just only be Cut that he's referring to, but they also have seen Cut, so there's no reason to bring that up. But yeah, I've got some speculation as to who the other ones could possibly be and all of that. So we'll come back to that here a little bit later. But yeah, this is when Wrecker finally kind of loses it, right? He snaps. He grabs a hand, and the tone here, the music completely changes, which is awesome. He grabs the hand. It's got a really good sound effect behind it, and then it has an even better sound effect when he grabs his throat, and you can just hear it like crushing his throat when he grabs Tech's hand or Tech's throat and starts choking him. And this is the part. I mean, this is the thing that I think we called that this was going to happen. We were going to get this Hulk moment where he's on the rampage and they've got to subdue him in some way. But he was pretty threatening. I mean, like you said, of all of them, arguably he is probably the one you don't want to get loose because he's just so strong and he's a posable threat to anybody really around him. But yeah, so this whole kind of just, what are your thoughts on the battle and him just kind of being this really, again, opposing figure? And then also, we had this whole scene where he's chasing Omega, and it was very reminiscent for me of like Aliens, where, you got Newt kind of running around on the ground and getting through vents and ducts and stuff. And it was all kind of similar to that. But yeah, I mean, just your thoughts on Wrecker's churn and then certainly all the stuff that just happened right after that.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on the sound and the music, because when Wrecker finally turns, you have this moment where all of the sound just stops. And I mean, it's a normal thing that they do in movies and TV shows, of course, when everything snaps into place and you're automatically focused.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen Wrecker this tense and intense with the look on his face. I mean, you could almost see both eyes go in the same direction for once, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was just, and the look on his face was just absolutely chilling. It was anger, like you said, the squeezing of the throat. And then he just starts taking kill shots at everybody, saying you're out of compliance with, you're in direct violation of Order 66. And, basically knocks Rex's gun out of the way. And they're just trying to get him out of this medical room because he's starting to shred it with his blaster. He's shooting everything up. And so that, when they leave Omega to stay with Tech. But I think overall the fight was really good. I liked that when they ambushed him out there in the open, when they got out to the hallway, they each kind of had their moment there to do something. And of course it was only Hunter that was able to do really much of anything, which I guess is kind of cool. But, I found it amusing when he tried to get Wrecker in a sleeper hold effectively.
Yeah, and then he just pops him back.
Pops him back. And then, man, again, he starts choking him out.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until Omega takes a pot shot. And again, maybe her aim is really good because that blast was like right by both of their ears. It was perfectly placed. But I like that. It was a little reminiscent of a horror type of movie, though. I agree with you. I think just the tone, like you get the sparks and everything else. I think Alien's a great example of that.
Mm-hmm.
And this hulking figure that's just, it's just a predator. And of course he finds her, and man, you get a really gut wrenching moment there when, all clones in violation of, that's what he said to Hunter. Everybody, all the clones should be terminated if they're in order of it. But he tells her that, conspirators, conspiring with traitors makes you guilty of treason.
Yeah.
And she's got the gun and she's, wavering and quivering. And I had a question for you. Did you really think that there was any chance that she would take a shot at Hunter or at Wrecker rather?
Yeah, I don't think that she would. Like, it just doesn't seem like, I mean, she's very mature and I think she can see the bigger picture in a lot of things, but as a kid, you got to think what she'd be shooting somebody that she looks up to. Right. And I just don't see her having that kind of mental maturity to kind of do something like that. Or, but that said, if she did, I still don't know that it would have done anything because he seemed like he was kind of like in this berserker kind of mode. And we've seen him take blaster bolt shots before. So unless she like put it right between his eyes or something like that, I don't know that he would have stopped. Like she may have like stunned him, phased him temporarily or whatever, set him back on his toes. But I don't think he was going to stop. But I mean, that's another, I guess the question is, do you think he was going to try to, or she was going to try to kill him or hurt him? Do you think he was going to follow through on what he was doing though?
Oh yeah. I mean, and so that was the kind of the follow up was that when she tries to plead with him, but Wrecker, I'm your friend, and this just desperate kid voice that you're just like, stop, Wrecker, kind of thing. But he says, good soldiers follow orders. But I don't know. Did you pick up that it seemed like he said it a little bit slower to where he was struggling a little bit?
No,
did you get that?
No, but I would go back and listen to it and see if maybe it was there. I picked it up as that's just the way Wrecker talks. And it's D. Bradley Baker trying to find variation, in the way he says the same character. It's
more dramatic too, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I think definitely he was going to shoot her.
Okay.
He was going to kill her, or whatever he was going to do to her. But I don't really have any doubt of that.
Yeah.
And actually, I thought that she was going to shoot him, and that was the way they were going to at least be able to subdue him. She wouldn't kill him, but she'd wound him, and it would be a whole nother layer of baggage that she would be and trauma that she'd have to get over.
We had theorized that she would be the one that makes him snap out of it. Because I mean, it is kind of cliche. It's a trope, right? Someone's pleading and suddenly they start touching on their like inner feelings. And that's enough to like make them realize, wait a second, what am I doing here? Right. This is my friend and all that. And I thought I honestly thought they were going to go there, especially when they had that moment where they were eating the Mantel mix. Yeah. Mantel mix. I thought, okay, for sure, that's how they're cementing and grounding a lot of this. And they were going to have she was going to pull out the mix or something. You know what I mean? I mean, that probably would have been way too cheesy, but no, they didn't go that route, which is fine. But then I started thinking, okay, so what if Wrecker had killed her? Like, what if Wrecker had done that? What would the Bad Batch have done? Would they have subdued him? Would they have tried to kill him? I don't know. I mean, he was in a really bad spot, and there was nobody else conscious, at least. I mean, Rex he was coming back,
Right.
but not in that moment. And everyone else he'd already taken out. So, I mean, I don't know. We don't do those shows anymore, but it is fun to think about what Wrecker would have done and how that would have really kind of played out. And
we could always bring it back to what ifs. I've still got the logo.
The one show we did.
Right.
Yeah. All right. No, we're not doing that.
But yeah, Rex saves the day. He stumbles into the room and gets a stun shot on Wrecker. And of course, then we flash back over to the med bay and they've got him in there.
Yep.
And they're working on him. It seems to be taking longer, but I think this is you made the comment earlier that they were asking Rex, is this normal? He's like, I don't know. I haven't been on this side of it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because we had speculated or asked the question some time ago about whether or not Rex was helping others get the chip out. And it sounds like that answer is no, he has not been in that position.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of begs the question of, we presume that he's run into his brothers at some point, but has he been forced to kill them, or is he still stunning them, or, how has he been handling all that? But I guess that's neither here nor there, because they finally finished the procedure and, Wrecker doesn't wake up, which, of course, Omega's panicking about. But
I think it was just done for like dramatic effect though, right? I mean, I was trying to figure out like, why was it so different? Was it?
I put it as he was stunned. I mean, he's probably still asleep, from it. But Tech confirms that there's another great Tech moment too. Tech confirms that he's alive, but won't know anything until he wakes up.
Yeah. And then when he wakes up, he's like, "Oh, you're awake, or you're alive, or something."
Yeah. What was it?
I think you wrote it down in a note somewhere.
I did. Where did I put it? Oh, he said, "Oh, you made it."
Yeah. He's like the Sheldon of like the Bad Batch.
That's actually a great analogy.
I wonder if they based the character on Sheldon. But yeah, we get the "Hey kid, why the long face" line from him and all that. It was all good stuff. I mean, Wrecker coming out of that, and then they going in directly into everybody else getting the chips removed. Seemed like it was quick. And I mean, I guess we're past all that. I mean, there's really no threat now at this point, which I guess is fine. There's plenty of other things they still need to talk about here, right. With the Bad Batch. But we are going to pick up on the Rex and, removing chips and all that in the Patreon episode as well.
What'd you think of Tech's reaction once he had the chip out? I thought that was really nice. His just this little smile as he touches the side of his head with the bandage.
Yeah.
That was out.
I wonder if like Echo was the one that actually did the surgery or programmed it, or, what I mean? And maybe that was enough for them to finally get on their good sides with one another.
Yeah. I just thought it was telling that there's a sense of relief too. I think that potential is now gone and no one could control them. And it was just interesting that Tech of all people would smile.
Yeah.
It was just unexpected.
Yeah. Not in his character at all.
Mm-mm.
And then we get the moment where Wrecker and Omega are kind of talking about it.
I teared up.
Did you?
Lie.
Yeah.
I teared up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you think about it too. I mean, he feels really bad. So, I mean, you get the sense that, okay, he probably knew what was happening. He could see it was happening. He's lost in his own mind, a prisoner
confirmation of that.
Yeah. A prisoner of his own mind. And in doing and saying those things to her and not being able to control that. I mean, Rex kind of said the same thing, I think, as well, back when he did it. But yeah, and she's kind of like the bigger person here, and she's a little standoffish, right, as you would expect a kid to be. But if there's anything kids are very well at doing or really good at doing, is forgiving. Like, they don't harbor a lot of feelings like we do as adults, and right. They're able to get past things and move past things much quicker than we can. And a lot of our baggage comes from just being burned on those things time and time again, and things not really truly being okay, even though someone says they're okay. And so you become very skeptical and cynical about whether or not apologies can be accepted and you are able to move on. And you have somebody like Omega, who's so young, so pure, very mentally mature. And she's like, yeah, it's fine. Hey, I'm sorry, and they kind of have their moment there with the Mantel mix.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I started to notice this a bit even with Cut, where a number of these guys will actually get down to her level and talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
So Rex did it
Yep.
early in the episode, which again, that only makes sense if you've been around kids before and you get down to their level and you talk to them.
It's easier to talk to them that way, by the way.
Well, I mean, it hurts your back less too, but I mean, it's also it's just more of a connection, right? And you're on the same playing field almost. It's just psychological, and yeah, you have that moment, and then it's like a lowered defense as well.
It's a disarming and lower defensive. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. You're building that connection back, and when she put her hand on his face, I was just like, ugh. It was just she just understands so well. Just like when she told them that, when she talked to Crosshair, I know what you're going to do, but it's not your fault, and it's just those types of things. And yeah, she's a pretty special kid and mature in this way, at least, to where she's able to let those go. And then, like you said, she brings out the mix, which of course broke the tension because Wrecker's not sure what to do. This is probably the only time he's ever said, "I'm sorry" in his life. But I thought that was really important to say, though. And honestly, it was not something I expected to hear.
Yeah, he struggled with it too.
He did. I mean, he didn't know what the words were. And so he just kind of skipped to the end. Well, I'm sorry, kind of thing. And,
right, yeah.
And he stutters a lot. It kind of, has to get the word out a few times before it kind of comes out. But I thought it was really genuine and heartfelt, though, because that he felt terrible about this, that he was trying so hard and just wasn't able to do it. And that's got to be torture to be trapped in your own mind.
Yeah. I mean, and then the mix that she offers him is kind of the sign to him that everything's fine. Like, we're back to where we were. We're doing our stuff. Let's just move past this kind of thing. And that was enough for him as well.
Yeah. But Wrecker, you get all the ones with the pocket lint on it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you get
that's your punishment.
Crappy candy corn pieces that are stuck in there. No, that was a really good moment. And yeah, kind of just cements and solidifies that relationship even more, strengthens it more than we've had in the past.
Well, it was great how she brought it up too. Mission's over. We got to keep with tradition. So I thought that was really sweet.
Yep. Okay. And then we get to the final moment where it's nighttime and you've got Wrecker and I'm sorry. You've got Rex out there, and he has some interesting lines here. But we'll come back to that a little bit later in the next episode or in the Patreon one. But the lines of he says, "I'll meet you at the rendezvous on the next cycle," and I think there's something in there that I picked up on or next rotation. Sorry, we got a theory with that.
You heard the person talking? Because I couldn't quite make that out.
No, you can't hear the person talking. Although it does sound like a male voice or it
does
deeper voice, but
it doesn't always mean anything.
It doesn't always mean anything. No, there's something I picked up on in the wording of that, but no spoilers here. And that's when Rex comes up to him, and they meet up, and he kind of has this really sobering moment about, like, he's trying to understand. Hunter's trying to understand why Rex is even in this battle. Like, it's over. He says the Republic's gone, and Rex says, "Hey, no, they're not. It's not. There are other people out there." And he's kind of looking up at the stars. And you got to know his head's kind of wandering around with like Bail Organa and Ahsoka. Saw Gerrera. There's probably a number of other people that he's probably thinking about in that moment there when he's talking about the other people out there. And then Hunter gives him that comment about the priorities have shifted because Rex makes an offer. He's like, "Why don't you?" It's almost like the Han thing. "Hey, you're pretty good in a fight. Why don't you come join us? We could use you." Yeah. He's saying the same thing. "Hey, we've got a rebellion that we're trying to build or fight, start, whatever." And
I liked how he called him an asset. You'd be a tremendous asset.
Yeah, not the most. I don't know.
Choice words.
Yeah, choice words. Bedside manner needs some polishing there. But yeah, this is where I think he kind of reconciles. Okay, I get it, right? She's part of your squad. I accept that. And you're right. As the leader of the squad, you need to take care of all of them. And so if that means you need to depart and kind of take care of what you need to, that's fine. Just, hey, later on, if I call you, can you, I think it's Hunter that says, "Hey, just if you need us, reach out to us."
I think they both more or less exchanged that.
Yeah, they both said the same thing.
Yeah. And I think it was Rex challenges him a little bit though, right? And so when he says the priority shifted, he's like, "I noticed," and because Hunter was going on about has to do what's right for his squad. And Rex is like, "Okay, well, what is it?" And Hunter's very honest though. He's like, "I'm still figuring it out."
Yeah, I don't have it. I haven't have an answer for you.
Right. And Rex kind of has one of those moments. Yeah, we're all kind of figuring that out, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But yeah, he had, of course, Rex had more or less said that they were always welcome to help, and Hunter returns the favor as he's walking off, and that they'll always be there if they get in a bind. Just give them a shout. They know how to find them. A-team.
So first, that's what I thought of when I said that. 100%. I thought it was like, oh, here we go. A-team reference again.
But of course, just as Rex is out of sight.
Yep. We get the Scrapper Guild notify the Empire. So I think that's a pretty good telling sign that we're gonna pick right back up, which I'm okay with, because it feels like it's been forever since we've talked about Crosshair and the Empire, and it probably has. It's been 3 episodes now in a row that we've not had any of that. So which for me has been the more intriguing. I mean, I love all the Bad Batch, and I love Omega's relationship and Sid. All that's been good. But they really teased the Empire. For me, it was the big tease was the Empire, Grand Moff Tarkin, the Kaminoans, and the relationship between them and the Empire, what they were going to do. On top of that, you've got Crosshair. I mean, that was really the intriguing part. And it's, in all fairness, I think that's where we're going to see the brunt of most of the episodes that are yet to come here in season 1. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think this is where it's that internal conflict. That's where always the most interesting things are at, the kind of that psychological battle. And we wanted to see, how do they handle the Empire? How do they manage Crosshair now that he's with the Empire? How do they get him back? You know, what's their plan of attack? And well, they're going to have the fight brought to them now, I guess.
Yep.
You know, which is about what we kind of expected. Again, we're not really seeing a lot of surprises with how this all flows. I think it's all in execution, right? And the dialogue, and we talked about the writing last week, you know, and I think those are all still going very strong for the show. But I'm with you. I think we've been away long enough. I think we need to come back to it. And I think this is about the right moment. I think we've been away about the right amount of time. Maybe an episode too long, but I think we're okay. About 3 episodes. I think that's okay. So, but yeah, and Dale makes a good point. I guess we missed the other 10 missions if they got 10 cartons of Mantel mix. So clearly they've been working hard here.
Thanks for doing the math on that too, by the way.
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense because Sid wasn't super pissed, you know, about the botched job with the tactical droid. And clearly she's had time to get over it, because we kind of were like, okay, well, how's she's going to react when they get back? She's going to be ticked.
Yeah.
You know?
We never saw that, but they've had other good missions. And so, but that still is burning her, because there was probably a heavy amount of money that was placed on that.
Yeah. They need a big score to make it up. But yeah, so I'm ready. I think we're ready to get back with Crosshair and bring back that drama and see how they handle that now that they know what it takes to save him. And now it's a matter of how are they going to get him isolated in order to help him do that.
Yeah.
And then not get killed in the process.
That's always important.
So real quick speculation point. So as we get kind of close to halfway, do you think we're going to lose anybody?
From the Bad Batch?
Do you think anybody's going to get killed off in the Bad Batch? Yeah.
No. No, I don't think so. And in fact, I've been just thinking about I was going to say Death Watch, but that actually means something in Star Wars. Right. But no, like the Death Watch game of like, who are we going to lose? Like, it feels like we probably are going to lose somebody. I just don't know who it would be.
Who would it be that actually felt like it mattered, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Crosshair, I think we theorized early on, Crosshair somehow saving the Bad Batch, and giving his life up after either he fights the inhibitor chip or he's able to get away from it or whatever, something like that, where he's sacrificed. I mean, that would be kind of
my guess.
Would be a trope, right? For sure. But at least on the core people that we got right now, I just don't see it happening. Like there wouldn't be a lot of weight to it. I mean, outside of just their characters alone, you kind of want to have it mean something, has some significance behind it. So, and I say all that, I don't know, because I guess we'll see over the next couple episodes too what happens. There may be seeds that they plant that help kind of make that payoff happen. If it is somebody like a Tech or an Echo, which I think would be tragic if that is him. But I don't know that we're going to lose anybody this season. If anybody, my gut tells me it's probably going to be like Crosshair.
Yeah, that makes, right now that would make the most sense. Okay, touching base. Has been a few episodes since we've speculated around that, so I thought it was a good time as we get back into that, maybe where we're at with it, and if things have changed at all. Yeah,
maybe it's Omega
overall. Yeah, Omega. I don't see that happening.
No, I'm just kidding.
But overall, really good episode though. I think they delivered on what we wanted to deliver on. I think it was pretty well written, and I think, like you said, I'm ready to get back to Crosshair and the Empire. I think that's gonna we now have a path forward. We don't have to keep worrying about Wrecker because that dragged on a little bit.
Mhm.
But now we can move this forward and figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So, but really good episode. I think it delivered on what it had to deliver.
Yep. No, I agree too. It's probably my second favorite out of all of them. With the first one still being my favorite, but this one a close second. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We are going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back, record offline the Patreon episode where we'll dissect Rex and before, beginning, and after, speculate on some things there about who he was talking to and all that great stuff. And then again, if you're a Patreon member, this episode will come out tomorrow morning along with the Patreon episode, and then everybody else will get it on Monday. They'll get 374. Ooh.
Man, doing it early this week.
Yeah, one day early.
That's right.
Well, it's if we go to Tuesday, then it's like by then everybody's kind of tired of hearing about 374 or not 374. I'm already tired of 374. Right. Now everybody's tired of hearing about battle scars. Yeah, because you talked about it enough. So hopefully that's not you, but if it is, maybe. Hey, before we go, just quickly, if you guys haven't had a chance to leave us a review on iTunes, we would certainly appreciate that. Only if it's 5 stars. And also, please, no shame. I'm kidding. No, it's fine. Whatever. Just give it to us.
But seriously, only 5 stars.
But seriously, only 5 stars. And then there's also Podchaser, which I just signed up for that. So we're there now. We've got like 1 review. I don't remember who gave it to us. Thank you. We need to call that out because somebody actually took the time to write a review for us on that. But,
okay, yeah, I don't monitor that one. I monitor all the rest.
I know that's what I'm saying. I'm just bringing it up now. But yeah, if you're into either one of those and you listen to the show, both of those are opportunities there to give us kind words or bad words, however you want to do it. Just don't give me a 1 star with like nothing or a bunch of garbage text because your kid got on your phone, right? Don't do that. That's not cool. And if it is, then go take it off. Jonesy, final thoughts, last words, anything before last words? You're going to die. Anything else before we get out of here?
Yeah, the usual business. So if you want to talk to us, we're on Discord, eargluemedia.com/Discord. We just, we talked about Ryan and the Scream Show. We just got him set up with a channel too. So if you're a big Scream fan, come out and start supporting that. Of course, all the other shows on the network are there. Lots of great stuff going on. Lots of Bad Batch conversation, lots of Bad Batch. So if you're interested, we're keeping a lot of it spoiler free until we get through most of the weekend and be able to use a spoiler tag, so you're relatively safe in there. Well, we're pretty good at it though. I'm actually pretty impressed. All the folks have been doing pretty well. So all the guys and gals are doing well. And then of course the other one is we talked about Patreon. If you want to reach out to us and contribute to the show, everything that you spend goes right back into the show. It's patreon.com/thecantinacast, and you'll see a few tiers there if you just want to donate or if you want to pick up some of the other ones for some extra bonus content. I believe $2 for the After Dark is what you get the bonus episode after, or the after show each week. So would love if you got there and check that out.
Yep. Oh, TeePublic is 35% off this week.
Oh, there you go.
By the way. So if you've been waiting to get a shirt or anything with our logo or another show's logo, that's fine.
Yeah. I'll give you another plug then. So eargluemedia.com/shop or /store. Either one of those will take you over to the Earglue Media store where the Cantina Cast shirts are all at, as well as all of the other shows, Film Appraisers, Barrel House, all that. All that's out there. If you feel so inclined to rep the show in your neighborhood, we would certainly appreciate that. And send us a picture if you do, or put it on social media. We love to capture those, and we end up using those at some point.
Yeah. And we only make like $1 on them.
Yeah, we're not making much. So
we don't make a lot of money. It's just more like, hey, it's 35% off, which they don't do that very often. It's like 30%. They do it pretty often, like once every month or so. They get, for a couple days, but 35, they do it maybe once a quarter, once every 3 or 4 months. So this is the biggest discount. They've never done 40%. So, hey, if you've been putting it off, now's the time to do it. So it's like some Father's Day thing they got going on. I don't know.
Oh, cool. All right, let's get out of here.
All right, man. We'll see everybody next week for 375. And we'll see you then.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good fun stuff. But I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what. So that's your disclaimer.